welcome to the Record Rangers podcast. I'm Scott McDermott. I'm joined by my Record Sport colleague Andy Newport from Jablonec in the Czech Republic. We're here for Rangers Conference League playoff tie, second leg against FK Jablonec. Andy, first of all, what do you make of the place? It's very, dare I say, it's very Conference League.
We arrived last night, not too late, about 8-9 o'clock, and I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find them.
Felt like it was 4 in the morning.
I must admit, that was what we said. It's like that when you're stumbling home for a night out. There's nobody here. That's kind of the vibe it was. Had to persuade one of the local restaurants to stay open so we could get some grub. Managed to find a pub to watch the Celtic game in afterwards. So yeah, nice enough wee place, but sleepy is the word I think.
Pub to watch the Celtic game with hard rock music lasting memories. I think after the restaurants, they don't think the only other place open was a kebab shop, but obviously we didn't get anywhere near.
No. Professionals as well, athletes as well. Yeah. Only for the protein though.
I'm not really not. Look, we've got a game to cover. We're going to be going to press conference later on. Rangers obviously leading 1-0 for the first leg. Ryan Nadiri's goal, tap-in, he nearly missed for about 3 or 4 yards out. It wasn't the most convincing performance. Obviously, Cammy Devlin gets sent off late on. Kind of changed Rangers' tactics a wee bit in terms of going for the second goal. It's a narrow lead. What's your gut feeling? Is that going to be enough to get them through this tie? How do you see it going?
Yeah, listen, I mean, I think you're right. I don't think it was the Rangers' most sparkling performance, which was a bit surprising given the way that they performed against St Mirren. I think you and I both thought that was going to be a turning point for the team. I think Derek McInnes was sort of caught off guard by the way that the team sort of failed to hit the heights that they had at the weekend. But yeah, no, I think Rangers should have enough to get through. Here comes your coffee, Scott. Yep, let you get tucked into that. Thank you. Yeah, I think it should be. They should have enough to get through. I don't think it will be comfortable. I can sort of see them edging it by another odd goal. But I think they have to be far tighter than they've been in recent weeks. I think they have to certainly take their chances better when they come along. I think the additions that we're expecting Ben Godfrey to come back into the team, that seemed to be the suggestion from Derek McInnes last week. I think we've been speaking about for a number of weeks that we're thinking that Manny Fernandez could do with just sort of coming out the side. Maybe he's had a wee bit of dip in confidence. He could do with having somebody else to sort of give him that wee bit of a kick up the backside, I think. But I certainly think Rangers will get through because frankly I don't think Jablonec, that aside last week, I think they're pretty limited. I think if Rangers do lose to a team of this this sort of level of quality, then I think that would have the alarm bells really ringing for Derek McInnes and his players.
Let's talk about the potential team news then. I mean, I think you're right at the back. I think Derek McInnes has got potentially two big calls to make. Ben Godfrey appears to be back fit again. Obviously picked up the injury in the opening night of the Premiership against Dundee United. I think we've missed him. He was obviously early on in his Rangers career, but I thought he actually started that game at Tannadice pretty well. So Derek McInnes will be tempted to bring him back. You're right, in place of Fernandez, who I think had a really poor start to the campaign in general. And at right back, obviously they've so far they've kind of relied on Ross McCrory and Dujon Sterling to fill that position, but they've felt compelled to go and bring in Costa Nedeljkovic from the.
It's usually me struggling with the pronunciations. This is good to see you toiling here.
From Aston Villa on loan, highly rated young Serb coming into play. I think part of the loan obligation, conditional obligation to buy is playing games, obviously. So he's not coming in to sit on the bench. Do you think that will be in Derek McInnes' mind to make those two changes at the back? Normally managers, especially in the ties kind of on a knife edge, don't want to make too many changes. But with massive games coming up, Rangers need to find their best back four. I think, and for me, I genuinely believe they need to get Nedeljkovic in at right back, and they need to get Godfrey partnered with McCann, with Penrice at left back. To me, that looks at the moment might be the strongest back four.
I agree. I mean, I think just in terms of centre back, listen, I think Manny Fernandez is going to have a really big future in the game. I think, as we've spoken about,
If we can cut
yeah,
concentration,
that's what it's going to come to. I mean, I think you look at all the attributes he's got, the height, the pace, his passing ability, in so many respects, he ticks all the boxes.
But all the physical attributes.
It's the key one, what's happening in between the years that so many times lets him down. And listen, I think he's unfortunate in the sense that he does have this kind of languid style about him. And I think a lot of people, maybe mistake that at times as, he doesn't care, he's not trying. I think that's just his mannerisms. But there's definitely, but there is definitely moments where his instinct isn't to defend. His instinct isn't to sniff out where the danger is. And listen, with the modern game, the way that teams build out through their centre backs, you can't just be a sort of head it and kick it. Centre back of old, you've got to be able to have more strings to your bow, and he definitely has those. But I think there's times where, listen, your number one job is to keep the ball at the back of your net, and I'm not sure that that's always at the forefront of his mind. So I think that's the thing he has to, and he's admitted himself. He's admitted he spoke with it about Russell Martin. He said he spoke with it to Danny Rowe, and you can be sure that was the first thing that Derek McInnes said to him when he sat him down in the summer. You have to get your concentration levels up. So I think
he maybe needs to come out of the team, kick up the backside to realise, wait a minute, somebody here, an ex-England international, Premier League player, on loan to Atalanta, want my place. I think Fernandez needs that almost to kind of reset and get back to the levels that he hit last year for a spell that basically made him Rangers Player of the Year.
I think he looks like a guy who's got the weight of the world on his shoulders right now, and you can sense, especially at Ibrox, where we know that at times the crowd can be reactionary, they can be a wee bit anxious and tetchy, and if things don't go well, especially in that, those nervy moments when you're trying to build out, I think the fans can get in top of him a bit, and I think he's a type of character that reacts to that. So for me, just take them out the firing line for a couple of weeks, just allow him to settle down, not have that kind of scrutiny on him for a couple of weeks, and just allow him to breathe a little. We're doing the world a good. I think what has been a real support to him in these last couple of weeks where he has been struggling is having McCann there, because he looks a proper find so far. He's settled in well. He's the
exact opposite. Fernando. He does all the basics well, quietly. Defends first, keeps things simple, and that's why I think Godfrey's a guy that likes to defend as well. And I think for what Derek McInnes needs right now in terms of the evolution of this Rangers team and trying to get them winning again, especially when you think they're going to Pittodrie on Sunday for a massive game in the away game in the Premiership. I think he'll want to see Godfrey and McCann together.
For me, right now, what this Rangers team needs a run of clean sheets. I think clean sheets, and just calming everything down. Listen, we know the performances in an attacking sense haven't quite clicked yet. But I think what's adding to the pressure on them is the fact that they've shipped some really cheap goals of late. I think if they can cut that out, I think it takes the pressure off the guys at the top end of the pitch.
His teams aren't renowned for that. His teams have been renowned for being solid, compact, don't give away many chances. And I think at times, if I've watched Fernandez this season, bear in mind he's no other option at times other than to play Fernandez, and he'll be pulling the hair out his head at some of the, as I say, the lapses of concentration, the concession of chances to opposition teams. Look, I might be wrong, but I genuinely believe McInnes will be thinking, I need to try and get Godfrey and McCann together and fit and get a run of games. And as you say, I think that's their best chance of that, giving them that solid base.
I just don't think it's interesting what you're saying there, because you're saying that he's, and he has clearly had no other real option. Maybe John Suter could have come back in, but he seems to have been bombed so far out of the squad. He's in Siberia. But it's, at times last season when Manny Fernandez came into the team, Danny Rowe had no option. Like the point where he really got he's running the team because of injuries. So it's just interesting that how last year that was an opportunity that he grasped. This year it's been a kind of a burden on him. He's not been able to adjust to the fact that, now you are the man, you're the guy that's got to be relied upon. Listen, he's a young guy, okay, he's 24, he's not as young as some of the other guys around about him. At 24 you're maybe thinking you're more a fully rounded character, but he came into the game late, so he's still learning, certainly at this level. I just think a wee spell out the firing line would maybe just allow him just to breathe a little, get away from that, the pressure that he's under, that he's clearly feeling. I think we saw a sort of cryptic Instagram post from him. So there's certainly something going on there where he's not enjoying the sort of spotlight that he's under at the moment. So I think coming at that, just in terms of the right back, Radaljukovic, I'm interested to see what he can bring. Again, you try and do your homework in these guys. You're looking at YouTube highlight reels and listen. Those things can make MD look like a world beater. From what I saw of him, he looks fast, he looks physical, he looks like somebody who wants to drive with the ball. I think that's maybe what Rangers need, somebody that can contribute and form a sort of partnership with Yokota down that right hand side. We've seen, like, I don't think Dujon Sterling had the worst start to the season. I think he's been fairly solid, but we know that he's not a James Tavernier type. I think this is something that Rangers are going to have to try and get away from, that every right back comes in gets sort of held up against Tavernier. Obviously, we know Tavernier's had his critics, but undoubtedly what he offered this team was an attacking threat. Rangers are going to have to try and find a way of playing and getting more out of the players at the top end of the pitch instead of having to rely on their right back. But I do think that Radaljukovic can be a guy that can, certainly with his driving runs and his ability to get forward, he can maybe drag focus away from the wingers and open up that space and just give the guys at the top end of the pitch a wee bit more room to breathe.
But you say about Sterling being different to Tavernier. The biggest difference between the two of them is durability and robustness.
Yes,
I mean, Tavernier was available, whatever you thought of him, he was available every single week for Rangers for the best part of a decade. Sterling, I think, genuinely, when he's at his best and he's fully fit, is more than capable of being Rangers right back. There are times.
Put it this way, when Neil Scotland was at the club, I remember having a conversation with him, and he told me that if it wasn't for the injury issue, that you're talking, Dujon Sterling was a Premier League footballer. They put him at a sort of not top end Premier League, but his ability wise, he could have played.
I don't disagree.
Sort of 15th, 16th, 17th in the Premier League. That was at his sort of level. But you're absolutely right. You can't get him to play 5 games in a row, and that's why he's still at Rangers.
And he's not really. I know you're saying the start of this season. I'm not saying he's been poor, Sterling. He's not really made that impact, and I know it's difficult for a right back because you say there's nobody quite like Tavernier when it comes to getting forward. I just don't think him or McCrory has really nailed the place down and says, right, I'm going to be the new Rangers right back. So I think there's an opportunity.
But how many guys in the team have done that? Apart from McCann, maybe the goalkeeper. Yeah. There's no many guys in the team that have actually, look like you can definitely say that's the issue with the captaincy. I'm sure we'll come on in a minute, but there's so few guys in the team that you can guarantee they will play every week.
What about further forward at the midfield? Obviously, Ben McInnes can chop and change a wee bit. We know Cammy Devlin suspended after the red card last week at Ibrox. Personally, I think if Raskin has shrugged off the ankle knock that he's had, that caused him to miss last week, I would expect him to come back in. I think Dragojevic has to play because he's been one of the better performers in the last few weeks since he came in.
He brings an urgency to the team in sort of way that so few of the guys really do.
But I think the other places may be up for grabs, and it's either going to be Dan Neil or Chukwani. I would think it'll play in that midfield three if they think McInnes is going to stick to the 4-3-3. I think they'll go Chukwani probably for this game. I think as much as I don't think Chukwani is really his best for Rangers pretty much since he signed, even in the last couple of weeks when he started the last 2 games. But I feel as if McInnes will think he gives them something a bit different.
I think McInnes always wants to have a physical element to his team, and I think that's where you're right. In some ways, I do think I'm interested about Daniel because I think there's been a lot of focus on him. A lot of people, for example, compare him to a Joe Rothwell. I don't think he's at that level as a bad yet. There's no doubt he's kind of been a wee bit underwhelming. I think there's been a couple of signs that he's ticking towards it. What Rangers really need him is to get there quicker. But then you think about it, a player coming in.
Barry Ferguson said in his column, last week's record column, and he's a guy that likes Dan Neil and spoke to him before he signed for Rangers, and it was all for him signing. I think Barry was right. He said he feels as if Dan Neil at the moment is playing within himself.
Yeah, 100%.
He's not come out of his shell yet, and I know that can be difficult for a new player coming in at Rangers, especially when you've had the captain's armband for a couple of games. But as I say, I think Barry's right. I think Daniel really has to show a bit more personality, a bit more character on the pitch. Really start grabbing games with the scruff of the neck.
I spoke to. We've got a journalist colleague who supports Sunderland, and I remember speaking to him last week at the first leg, and I'm saying to him, "Is this the same Dan Neil that you saw played for Sunderland?" He said, "Absolutely not, because at Sunderland, what he was known for was those sort of line-breaking passes where he would sort of progress the team up the pitch, be brave, be bold in the ball, be willing to thread a pass through to a tight avenue. He has, absolutely, he's been too safe. He's and that safety first, cautious, playing square, playing backwards, playing 5-yard passes at a slow tempo. But what it's done, it impacts the whole rest of Rangers' performance because it slows everything down. It allows, whenever there's an opportunity to break in a team or to attack them, it allows them to get back in shape and solidify up, and it makes the job hard of breaking them down so much harder. So, I think he does need to open up. I think you saw slight signs he's trending in the right direction, but if he does get the start, he has to be bolder and he has to be doing it a lot quicker for me if he's going to keep his place in the team.
What about ahead of that? I mean, we expect the Rangers to make a big signing in the next 24 hours. Kim Min-soo coming in from Girona. We're led to believe £8.5 million release clause. South Korean. He's obviously not eligible for this second leg. Could make his debut at Pittodrie on Sunday. What a baptism of fire that'll be for a 20-year-old coming in. Welcome to Scottish football. Aberdeen v Rangers, your first game. So we expect him eventually to effectively, I suppose, be Rangers' first choice left winger. You know, if you're paying that kind of money for him, he'll compete obviously with the likes of Gassama and Finlay Curtis, you would imagine, in that position. But for this game, I expect Derek McInnes to pretty much go with the three that started the last couple: Yokota and Gassama wide, with Nadiri through the middle. Himself, Nadiri, whatever you think him, he's obviously got 2 goals in his last 2 games. Can you see that yourself, or do you see him making a change in that area?
No, I think at this point we saw in our first few games of the season just how many changes he was making.
He's trying to stabilise.
Yeah, I think it's looked like, frankly, like he was sort of throwing something at the wall and hoping it would stick. He was hoping it would stick, and he's got himself into this. He's decided that a 4-3-3. I think had Trimiti still been available, you might have seen him persist a wee bit with the 2 up front. Obviously, we'll come on to Shankland, I'm sure. It's really cost him his place in the team. I don't think you're going to see Lawrence Shankland playing up front for Rangers on his own. Certainly not with the sort of level of winger that they're at the present. I think they need to have guys that are far more dynamic and frankly hitting far better numbers in terms of assists and crosses before you...
You don't think Shankland could play up front his own, with all due respect, in league games at home against lesser teams?
Yeah.
I think people are almost kind of boxing Shankland into this kind of like tackle up front. He's got to play with a partner, and I get why they're saying that, but don't tell me Lawrence Shankland, who's pretty much scored 20-25 goals most seasons in the league, can I go and play up front for Rangers with the chances that they create?
I just think they need better service, and I don't think the guys that they've got there quite at this moment are going to provide the level of service that makes up for Shankland's lack of mobility at times, and his lack of ability to press, and his lack of ability to run the channels and make chances for himself. So listen, there's absolutely no doubt that Lawrence Shankland is a far superior finisher, striker, in so many respects than Ryan Nadiri.
Technically,
but what Ryan Nadiri does is gives Rangers a presence at the top end of the pitch in a physical sense in terms of. And even then, I don't think he's perfect in that front. I think he can, for a guy his size, he has to be stronger at times. He's too easily brushed off the ball. But Derek McInnes likes the way that he leads that forward press. I think if you've got guys that are more dynamic up alongside him, maybe making the runs in behind and they'll allow him to then drop short, and you had guys in midfield, especially a proper midfield playmaker that could find them, I think you get the makings of. I think you then could get the best out of Lawrence Shankland. But right now, listen, we'll see what Min-soo provides when he comes in.
What's your thoughts on Min-soo in terms of he involved in his profile?
I think, listen, I don't think many fans will look at his numbers. Was it eight goals last year, 5 goals last year, 4 assists, something like that. I mean, I don't think it's a lot of money for a guy that's basically played. Okay, I think you'll have people to tell you that it's Spanish second division is as high a standard as the SPFL. But I still think it's a lot of money for a guy that's not really proven at the top level. Listen, plenty of people will tell you, especially Girona, that they have big plans for him this season. They believe he's a proper prospect. But I think a lot of Rangers fans will be thinking, well, if you're going to spend that kind of money, would you not be better going and get somebody like a Václav Černý who can do it now, and you know it'll do it now? Listen, I'm led to believe that the clubs have been in discussions with Besiktas, with Václav Černý. Listen, the finances involved in that, Besiktas are looking for, something, £6-7 million. Václav Černý's on £2 million a year. He would have to take a pay cut. I think, from what I'm told, he would be prepared to take a pay cut, but to get to the level that Rangers would be comfortable with, it might be quite a large one, and he might not be prepared to go that far. But I think, for a guy at 29, it would still be 29 in a couple of months. That's still quite a huge sum to be paid out for somebody who might not get the money back. And they're gambling that Minsu is going to be the next big thing. But for me, it is a gamble, and I think we've spoken about this before. The sort of the level that Rangers can compete in the transfer market, the financial level. There's no guarantees anymore. Everything's a punt. Everything is a gamble. It's just to what degree or not you're going to punt. I think Černý is less of a gamble, but you're not going to get the payoff at the other end of it. You're not going to get your money back. Whereas if Minsu pays off, then there's potential for him to make the club a lot of money.
We don't know for certain, but you'd probably think Derek McInnes would rather have Černý.
Yeah.
He kind of knows what he's getting, proven quality, can hit the ground running, has been there and done it with Rangers. But obviously, for the club point of view, they're looking at Minsu as an investment, same way as Mecania's an investment, same way as Nedeljkovic will be an investment at right back. In terms of Minsu, I agree with you. Of course, it's a gamble. A lot of money for Rangers to be fortunate in a 20-year-old with potential. But as you say, you can only go on the clips, listen to people in Spain, listen to people in Korea. They genuinely believe this boy's a special talent, and even looking at his profile, well, he isn't your typical kind of wide player. He looks physically strong, powerful, really pacey, energetic. Looks as if he constantly wants to make things happen. So Rangers fans will be praying he comes in and does that almost immediately. And I think for the money that they've paid, he's going to have to come in and make an impact. It sounds harsh, and it sounds kind of brutal to expect that for a 20-year-old coming into a new league, new culture, new club. But for Rangers, when they're paying that kind of fee, they need a return pretty quickly, don't they, if they're going to try and win trophies.
I mean, you even see with the Drioch move. I mean, like, they weren't even prepared to wait, 6 weeks from to come in and perform. They need a guy hitting the ground now. So I said, as a gamble in that sense, they have to hope that this guy's as good as they think he is. They've been told he is, but listen, until we see him here, it's hard to know. We've seen so many players that have come with big reputations and not succeeded. So many guys that we've not really heard of that came here and lit it up. So I'll be interested to see, as you say, like Pittodrie, couldn't get a tougher place to make your debut. But listen, I think if he can succeed in that environment, then that'll be a pretty encouraging sign.
What else do they need? There's a week left to the transfer window. Assuming we'll be on here before the window shuts at some point. But to get Minsu in for that kind of money, what are you envisaging the next week? What does it look like for Rangers in terms of ins and outs?
Well, we definitely know for certain that the injury to Youssef Chermiti has changed their thinking around how the end of the window was going to go. That they're going to have to go for a centre forward. So there's still these links with Kevin Kelsey at Portland Timbers. Some suggestions last night, I'm not sure how accurate they are, that might be hitting some sort of stumbling block. The interest has been there for a while. It hasn't really seemed to move forward.
Spoke with the Portland Timbers at length of this. He is, I think we know he is the top target.
Yeah, it just depends on what kind of deal it's going to take. I mean, again, the MLS, Rangers haven't had great success with buying guys from that league, so are they really going to go and spend huge amounts to bring these guys over? Yeah. But I mean, there's been sort of for every Macania, you've got a Jose Cifuentes. I mean, so listen, again, it's a bit like Scotland. Your buying guys here. There's a sort of ceiling that players can hit price wise because of just you're never sure how they can go and adapt to other leagues. So. Listen, Rangers won't want to be going spending mega bucks, especially if they've got Chermiti still in the books. It might have been different if Chermiti had sort of moved on. So I think that's absolutely definitely a position that they have to go and strengthen in. And in terms of, I think they'll still like another winger to compete with Yokota. And I think if Derek McInnes got his way, he would be getting another, creative midfield type. I mean, I think he likes the idea of Tello Asgard, but for whatever reason, as we've spoken about numerous times, Tello Asgard just can't piece it together. He's a guy who's got all the talent in the world. Physique looks great. Again, attributes. He seems to tick so many boxes, but when it just comes to putting that on a performance and a consistent performance, it just seems to fall apart at times. He's capable of those, really nice moments as we saw on the opening night at the Tannadice, but it's doing it day in, day out. It's doing it minute in, minute out. That's where he falls down. So I think he would like somebody. If he could get a prime Tello Asgard that he can perform at a consistent level every week, I think that he would like to do something like that. But again, find those guys at the price range that Rangers can afford is so tough.
I think a perfect world, and he would also want a left-sided centre back to compete with Macania and Godfrey and Fernandes, just to give him that balance on that side.
But do you not think, with having Sterling there who can cover centre back, McCrory at a push who can cover centre back?
We're all right-sided, that's the problem.
Macania's left-sided?
He plays in the left, he's still right-footed. I mean, he is two-footed, and he played in the left in the MLS, but he isn't naturally left-sided. So I don't know whether it maybe whether he could maybe get a lone player, just somebody with that.
Part of me thinks if you get Godfrey back and if he's fit, I think right now Rangers need to prioritise the top end of the pitch. I think that's where they're falling down. I think that's why the defenders are coming under the scrutiny they are, because if they make one mistake, the guy is at the top end of the pitch aren't bailing them out. I think that's what's increasing the stress on them, and it becomes a sort of a cycle of doom, because then when the defenders make a mistake, the strikers feel even more pressure themselves. I think that's why they need to focus at the top end of the pitch.
But you're talking about creative midfield, and I don't disagree with you, because I think apart from Asgard and that kind of number 10 area, there's not really got anybody else with that kind of creativity. But see if Nico Raskin was to go in this window, which I think is a distinct possibility, it looks as if Conor Barron will be allowed to go as well. Lyle Cameron is obviously out of the picture, he'll be allowed to go as well. As much as they've signed a lot of midfielders, Devlin, Neil, Bradley,
it's starting to thin out a bit.
Totally thin out, and I think, again, speaking to Barry Ferguson last week, who knows the position better than anyone at Rangers, I think they're still crying out for a controller in the middle of the park, a dictator. You're talking about defence coming under pressure. I think partly why the defence has come under pressure in games, there's not enough protection in front of them. I don't think Dan Neil is that type that's going to put out fires.
Do you not think that's physical? Do you not think that's where they're eyeing up Dragicevic for? And listen, don't get me wrong. Was he 20? He's got a lot of learning, a lot of growing to do.
I thought he would be, because everything you read when he was at Partizan as captain was that he was a natural number 6. He was a leader. He was dictating games for them. But he's come in at Rangers. They've immediately put him one up into a number 8 position.
That's only
he looks like a box to box.
Yeah.
So you put him at number 6 to try and control the game. You probably lose a bit of that energy.
I think he's got a wee touch of the Raskins about him, in the sense that he's so energetic and determined to get.
McInnes has said that.
Determined to get himself into.
Less is more.
He's in danger of getting himself dragged out of position at times, and I think you saw that at right back. There was a couple of times where he started that Hibs game. Obviously, I think he gets he concedes a penalty and gets taken off. I think he looked like he was the first time he'd ever played right back, frankly. But I think that was because he was, again, he's so determined to get involved in the action. You have to go, you have to hold your role, and especially as you say in that 6 role, that is absolutely crucial. Listen, he's got experience. He's played at a big club in Serbia and Partizan. I think in that kind of environment, you have to be somebody that knows the role. I think he's shown that, but I think in time that he is the guy that they'll hope to get there. But as you say, at 20, it's a lot to ask a guy of not bundles of experience.
I just think the start of this season, Rangers have lacked control in a lot of the games. We spoke about this so often the last couple of years. I think since the way back to Barry Ferguson, even though then it was kind of Ryan Jack, Stephen Davis, people like that. I think to a lesser extent, and fans might disagree, I think to a lesser extent even John Lundstrom did the role pretty well in his spell at Rangers. He could control the tempo of a game for me. He could speed it up, he could slow it down. He was confident. All these guys I'm talking about, confidently taking the ball in tight areas. The crowd didn't get to him. They didn't shrink to Ibrox or go and hide. Constantly go and get the ball off centre back and build play. I think Rangers have lacked that for a long time. And even though they've signed midfielders this summer, again, guys like Neil, Dragicevic and Devlin, who are all regarded as like defensive midfielders, I look at them and I don't think any of them's got the real kind of stature and personality to be the orchestrator, not to be the guy.
The last guy that they had that actually performed the role, well, with Stephen Davis. But you're talking about a guy who's got 400, 500 games in the Premier League under his belt. I mean, that was the level Rangers. Yeah,
because he was, Davis was kind of lightweight. He was a guy.
But he controlled it with passing.
Yeah. But he didn't really offer the protection to the back four.
No, but he protected the back four by keeping the ball. Yeah. And I mean, I go back to Stephen Gerrard's sort of first season when they had Ross McCrory at times playing in that central midfield role. And I remember when I gave it Pittodrie that Rangers won, I thought McCrory was absolutely fundamental because Rangers at that time weren't good enough with the ball, they didn't control the ball, so they needed a destroyer in there, somebody who could just go and win the fight. And it became evident as Rangers progressed as a team that they didn't need that anymore because they then started keeping hold of the ball. I think Rangers are kind of back at that stage where they were, under Gerrard in the early stages. I think they need somebody that just puts their foot in sometimes. I think until they get better on the ball, and that goes all around the team, until every player in the team is better protecting the ball and keeping possession, they're going to need somebody that can go and win the physical, but they have to be in a disciplined way. They can't be going just charging into tackles because we see that too often. We're asking, he's so determined to get involved in the collisions that he vacates the position where he should be, and that's where the teams exploit you.
Just getting back to the game Thursday night, finally, I mean, we're led to believe there's going to be increased security at the game. They're expecting volatile. I know it's hard to believe. I mean, the stadium, we had a brief look at it. I mean, I think only holds at 6,000.
That's a bit Dingwall-esque, isn't it? I think there's one end that's sort of open behind the goals.
I mean, do you think Rangers going to need to deal with that, or should that be fairly comfortable for them? And how important is it that they just get through this tie?
I mean,
group stage football, albeit the Conference League isn't what they want, but I still want 6 games.
I think right now what Rangers need, and Derek McCann has spoken about this, it's just something to build momentum. I mean, getting that first win against St Mirren was a huge weight off of Derek McCann's shoulders. You could see it. You could see the way he reacted to the goals going in. He was, you could tell that the first 4 games had really left a strain on him, and the relief was instant. And then again, as we spoke about, we thought the game against Jablonec at home would be, another chance just to sort of, build on that performance. It didn't happen. Okay, they get the goal, they get the win, but it was a really stunted, laboured performance. So I think they just, it's about getting wins and just moving away from that narrative that this is a club in crisis. If they can get a win, get themselves into the group stages, go to Pittodrie, get a result there any way they can, then I think it starts to change the mood. Listen, we only have to look at what happened last night to Celtic. Celtic were feeling so good about themselves. They've had a fantastic start to the season, scored a lot of goals. Listen, I think the warning signs have been there in a lot of the games. We were speaking about this last night. You think about the game at Tannadice, the game at Rugby Park, even last week at home. Celtic, as much as they were scoring a lot of chances, they were also giving up a lot of chances. But what that result last night has totally flipped in the head. The sense of the resurgence they were feeling, the sense of buoyancy they were feeling, that's gone. They're now back to a club in crisis. If Rangers, stumble again here, and they're back in that sort of that atmosphere as well. They have to, for Derek McInnes' sake, for the board's sake, for the players' sake, they have to just keep rolling on and picking up the wins and just changing the mood around the club, because it's no doubt it's been a difficult start to the season. What I doubt, people are already writing off their chances. If bit by bit they can just keep rolling it on, then I think you can see the mood change.
What's the bigger game for Derek McInnes, Thursday night or Sunday at the Toddy? Can you separate?
Listen, I think always Rangers' bread and butter is the league. So that, I think absolutely that's the bigger game. But listen, you can't take these things in isolation. These again, a bad result tomorrow night can bleed into the league form. We saw that happen to Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's team in the Champions League. For every pacing they took in the Champions League that season seemed to have a diminishing effect on their league performances as well. So listen, these things marry into, they blend into each other. If they can get a big result here and then follow up at Pataudry, I think you'll see a much brighter sort of mood around the place. Players will feel better about themselves, and then but you add in a couple of new signings, and if they can lift the place further, then you can maybe see Rangers really getting into their stride.
Well, we'll see what happens. It's going to be a massive week. That'll do us, Andy. Thanks for listening.
Thanks
folks.
to NordVPN.
I was just about to say thanks to our sponsors, NordVPN.
You can get who can give you a online security for the price of a cup of coffee a month.
Thanks for listening. Keep track on Record Sport, obviously, for all your latest Rangers info. Like and subscribe to the podcast on the usual platforms if you can. Help us keep it going. And we'll be back next week. We'll know then how Rangers have got on. 2 massive games. And we'll also be coming to the end of the transfer window, so it's going to be eventful.
Can't wait. 5 p.m. deadline this time. That's so we're not up till midnight. So happy days.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week.